Greetings. Thank you for inviting us all down here today. I am Ken DeVries. I'm running for House of Representatives in Idaho for seat B. I've been married to my wife Yvonne for 25 years. I've got a small ranch in Benewah County outside of St. Mary's, about 17 miles, where I've raised kids, both human and goats. I also raised various assorted and sundry birds like geese and chickens and that kind of a thing. I'm a technologist by trade. I'm a software consultant. I write business software, usually web front ends with large database back ends that are served up all over the world, used by companies as diverse as the Associated Press and food processing industry. Politically, I'm a conservative, and I make no bones about that. I believe that that government is best which governs least. I am pro-life, I'm pro-liberty, I'm pro-Second Amendment, pro-property rights, and I believe that state government, not only it has a duty and an obligation to protect its citizens, not only from each other in terms of criminal activities such as fraud by supporting fraud or other crime by supporting good law enforcement, but also in some cases from the federal government. As you probably know, our federal government is up to its eyeballs in debt, borrows 42 cents on the dollar for every dollar it spends. And you might think, well, why are we talking about that at a state race? Well, the state government is affected by that. You are affected by it, and I think it's the state government's job to potentially, and if necessary, step in and put an end to it. The state of Idaho is occupied 60% of its land by the federal government, and that's part of our problem, and I'd like to work to get that back. So I guess I'm out of time. Thanks.
Well, I'm Shirley Ringo. I have served in the Idaho legislature for 6 terms. I'm a retired teacher, 38 years teaching in public schools, and the final 25 were here at Moscow High School. I taught mathematics and have 2 degrees in mathematics from Washington State University. I'm married, I have 3 adult children, and 1 beautiful granddaughter. I thought that I might describe some of the things that a legislator does. It's a very interesting thing to be involved in. A few years ago, there was a lady that approached me who had been a victim of domestic violence. And she was hiding from the individual who had abused her, and she was extremely fearful of being found by him, being located by him. And one could easily see that she was disturbed. Her fingernails were bitten down to the quick. And the big thing that she wanted me to work on was that she wasn't able to vote, because by voting, her address would become public and this person might be able to find her. So I worked with some colleagues in the legislature and managed to pass legislation which allowed individuals in her situation to use a single address through the Secretary of State, and then he in turn had her address or that individual's address and was able to protect it. And so it kept her from being located by the person that she feared so greatly, and yet she still was able to exercise her right to vote, and problem solving is part of the job.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Stephen Brown on the stage. He will have questions for both of you. First of all, thank you both for coming. Ms. Ringo, or Representative Ringo, sorry. I would like to start with you. The first question would be just, could you in a couple of sentences tell what your vision of the proper role of government is?
Well, I see government as our opportunity as a people to be able to identify goals and work together to accomplish them. And I think there are some things that can be done better through government with people working together where profit isn't the motivation.
All right, thank you. Sort of following up on that, your husband last year saw me on the side of the road, my motorcycle broke down, and picked me up and dropped me off at my house. Quite a surprise, actually. It's awesome. But it seems that generosity and really being able to give people a helping hand like you did with the lady that you talked about is a big part of your campaign, your vision for Idaho. I'm curious, what role does generosity play in state government, first of all? And are there any dangers that come along with generosity? You're representing constituents and you're using their resources to do it. So are there any dangers that come with that, and what role does generosity play in state government?
Well, I would suspect what you might be getting at here is that there could be a line crossed with generosity where people lose their incentive to act for themselves and improve their own lot in life. And I think that responsibility is certainly important to all of us in that respect. Now, if we have individuals who, through no fault of their own, are in a position where they're struggling, people don't expect, for example, sometimes to lose their jobs, or they may not expect to suffer an illness where they absolutely don't have the resources to treat it, or maybe for their children. Then I think that's a point where we as a people should have that safety net where we can help them solve their problems and get back on their feet. And I don't think that that is necessarily going to be an impediment to their trying to take on responsibility. We can help them do that. So I don't know that I necessarily see that as generosity as our responsibility to one another. But I hope that answers your question.
It does. We have a couple seconds left, so I have a real quick question. There's an issue at hand now, trying to finish the 4-lane highway between Moscow and Lewiston. And just real quickly, are you in support, or would you support that, or would you be against that?
Does that mean I don't get to answer that question?
Go ahead.
All right. I would certainly support doing that. I'm on the Transportation Committee in the legislature, and I think that providing for the safety of the public is one of the responsibilities that we have, and especially in infrastructure that's appropriate. So I regret that we've been slow doing that. It's a particularly dangerous stretch of road, so I think we need to move right on that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. DeVries, I have a few questions for you. An interesting issue comes up with the federal government having greater than 60% of the state's property in national forests and such. In the process of getting, well, first of all, what is the process of getting that back, and how does that help the state?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that. As of today, well, last night I was at a meeting where a gentleman, a representative from the Utah House of Representatives, was conducting a meeting up in St. Mary's. Utah just recently gave the federal government to the end of 2014 to surrender all the land that it had refused to turn over to the state of Utah since the state's inception. Ken Ivory was his name. He authored the bill that was actually passed in Utah. The exact mechanism by which that's done, I really can't tell you because I'm just learning about that myself. But it's interesting to note the history that went on there. To pay off the debt of our Revolutionary War, the states, the original colonies, granted the Continental Congress title to the land for two purposes. One purpose was to pay off the war debt from the Revolutionary War. The second was to create new states, and for no other purpose. That's very important. If you look at this, there's a line that goes, I wish I had a map to show you, but there's a line that runs just east of the Dakotas. Usually on the other side, on the east of that line, you have states like Illinois, Indiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, have all gone through the very same process of getting their state land back. And so it's not like this hasn't been done. But the exact mechanism, you know, what's involved in that, I can't really answer, but I am studying it as I speak.
I have one further question. In a previous debate with Representative Ringo, you have a tax policy, or your position is that we should get rid of the income tax and the property tax. And Representative Ringo labeled that as hamstringing the state. What is your response to that, and maybe could you explain a little bit what you're talking about then?
Is that all the time I've got to answer this? Well, it's a big question to answer in 30 seconds. I am not in favor of income or property taxes for a couple simple reasons. At what point do you draw the line between 100% of your income being taken as slavery and 10%? What's the magic number? And with property taxes, you know, back in feudal England, if you didn't pay the king his due, it was taken away from you. So who owns the property? You or the state? And I don't have any time, I'm afraid, to answer the rest of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen, and Mr. DeVries, you would have 2 minutes to make any closing remarks you wish.
Well, I guess if I got 2 minutes to try and clarify the tax issue, I'll take it now. You know, every civilized government needs taxes. I don't think the most ardent conservative or even the most ardent constitutionalist would argue that point. The question is, for what, how much, and how do you raise it? So you have, you know, government can obviously lay and collect taxes at various levels, and it has to become an issue of what are you, before any discussion of taxes actually takes place, you have to ask yourself, what is that going to pay for? And like Cindy alluded to in her remarks, we're bound by certain principles and laws. Those laws are usually, we start with the Constitution. So for me, it's, is the role of government defined in the Constitution? Are we spending that money constitutionally? Are we spending that money wisely? Does it make sense? Do we need it? If it doesn't fit any of those, then I think we seriously need to look at whether or not we're spending that money at all, or whether we should spend it. In terms of taxation, rather than income or property tax, I would favor a tax on consumption. So we're talking about things like sales taxes and that. Now, please read me or understand me very carefully here. I am not advocating that we go out and raise taxes. That would be the furthest thing that I would really want to do. But I would rather see, if we're going to need, if the government needs taxes, I would rather see a consumption-based tax than one on income or property. I'm Ken DeVries once again. I'm running for Idaho House Seat B. That government is best, which governs least. And even though Shirley and I have had a pretty cordial relationship through our positions here, you won't find 2 candidates that are probably more further apart on issues. And if my philosophies are worth supporting, I would encourage you to vote for me on November 6th. Thank you.
Well, I agree that in state government and in any government, one of the things that you must do is decide what are those things that are important enough that government should be providing for the citizens. The Idaho Constitution says that we should provide a free, uniform public school system. That certainly is one thing that I don't think has been challenged, that we should do that. The other bigger items in our budget are health care and public safety, which involves our correction system, the police, and infrastructure that's safe. And those things are all costly. Now, if you have this ideology that you don't want to have property tax or income tax, that doesn't leave very much. And believe me, if you start looking at the practical aspects of that, you're going to have a difficult time coming up with the necessary funding for these programs that I think state government should be investing in for the well-being of the citizens. And those 2 items alone represent over 60% of state and local income. So I think if somebody's going to think that that's the right idea, then that person better have an idea about how we're going to replace that revenue, or what we're going to be able to, or be willing to give up. So I'm Shirley Ringo. I'm running for re-election. I've been around long enough to understand how government works. I'm very interested in providing the services that individuals need in order for families to be able to thrive. I think I know how to get it done.